everyone. Welcome to the Refine Network podcast. I'm Christopher. This is Evan. For any of you that are new here, hi. And for those of you that have been here before, welcome. Yeah, today we're going to talk about how Evan and I are really, really great with recording and audio and all the things. No, just kidding. We're going to talk to you today about how we've transcended our leadership styles throughout our journey. Reason I want to jump in on this is as we've got, the Refine Network off the ground, and now we have some viable products, and some of the things that we're choosing to do are being, acknowledged with value, and now we have actual clients, customers, and people that are following. I want to say thank you for that. But also, as our journey as leaders, I want to talk about how we got to where we're at. And then I also want to cast a little bit of a vision forward. So to jump right into it, Evan, within your experience and your leadership journey, walk me through the beginning.
So the beginning starts with the guy that's been on the podcast, Kevin Smith. He's the one that sat me down and said, Evan, you've got leadership potential. And I've told the story many times. In my head, I'm like, what's he talking about? Like, I don't understand. And what he did was he was very careful in how he did this, and very sneaky in his leadership. So let me paint a picture. We're working at a church, and we have 14 campuses. So the furthest campus was like 4 hours away, and it's all in South Carolina. And the ones that were on the coast, the 3-4 hours, they didn't get as much love as the ones up here when it came to people showing up and, on a Sunday to be like, hey, how can we help? Kevin comes to me. He says, hey, go to Columbia, which is about an hour and a half away. Take the production guy out to lunch on a Monday and see if there's anything that he needs from us or anything we can do to serve him. I can't remember all the details, something he needed. And so I came back and I was like, hey, this is what he needed. And he was like, all right, well, go ahead and order that for him. So I ordered it for him. Well, when I did that, I just bought equity, because now how the church was structured, here I am coming in to serve him. Hey, what do you need? And so the next week, he'd be like, hey, can you go to Charleston? Do the same thing? I go to Charleston. Then he's like, hey, can you go to Myrtle Beach? Shout out Dirty Myrtle. Myrtle Beach on a Sunday. I want you to go on a Sunday. I want you to see how their production is. I want you to see, what we're looking for, because we wanted everything to be unified. Like, going to a Chick-fil-A, it's the same setup, the same, everybody's, saying my pleasure. And so we wanted that for production. Obviously, there's buildings and limitations.
Right.
I'm like, oh, that transition wasn't great, or, they need video help there. Like, it's all volunteer based. So we might schedule a training for videos, and we go down there and say, hey, I noticed your video, like, it was kind of shaky. It was kind of all over the place. What if we came down and did a video training? So before I knew it, he is giving me the whole lower part of the state. Now, I still have the same title as assistant to the production director. I didn't get promoted. I didn't get a pay raise. But he gave me a book called Next Generation Leader by Andy Stanley. And that jump-started my leadership journey. Then I went into 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
Banger.
I went into 5 levels of leadership.
Outstanding. Creating
magic. There's so many I went through during that time. So I was in a season of that time of really serving and connecting. So fast forward, I actually get a promotion. I go to Spartanburg, which is about 50 minutes away. And I'm leading an audio guy who is so good. A lighting girl, which you don't see a lot of girls in production, especially in the lighting world. She was phenomenal. And then I had a worship leader that was the top worship. I mean, just his voice is just amazing, and how he can lead a room. And so I had a team that was like stellar. I'm like, this is going to be kind of easy. And it really was. I mean, there was a time, the reason I left that position was I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I could not show up for 6 weeks and nobody would even notice. And that's where you want to be, right? That's where you want to be.
That's a high level of leadership.
That's where I want to be in our company, where I don't have to show up and it just keeps rolling. And so it just wasn't challenging at that point. And I went and did something else inside the organization. But here's the thing. So the audio guy actually led the video team. The video team was all volunteers. And I remember Aaron saying, Evan, how do you get 7, 8, 9 video volunteers to show up at 6 o'clock on a Sunday and give up their whole Sunday morning and they're not getting paid? And that I was just like, wow. You know what we did looking back? It just clicked with me. Looking back, we did meetings before the service and it was inspirational. We would share something to inspire them. We had breakfast there. You know, we broke bread together. We sat there together. We spent time with each other and we made the atmosphere fun. You got to.
Right.
You know, like production wise back then, I mean, it was a lot of pressure. Like you couldn't miss, and we did miss camera shots or something like that, or somebody's microphone's on that shouldn't be on. You know, those are things I could go have into, because my role was the service producer, make sure everything's flowing good. And I would go have those conversations and they knew that I was for them because I had so much equity with them.
Yeah. You'd built relationships. And then through those relationships, they were able to look at you and see like, okay, as a leader, Evan is positive, right? Evan is approachable. Evan is going to be a problem solver. And he's also going to create an atmosphere that you can have a fun experience while you're doing some kind of stressful, difficult work.
And I'm so new. I'm so green. I am sure I'm messing up. I remember doing one-on-ones with my team. And the struggle was those 2 out of the 3 people I led during that time, they were reporting to the campus pastor. Well, when they created this position, I took this position. It was brand new. And now I come in under the org chart under the campus pastor. So I'm reporting to the campus pastor. They're reporting to me. And the 2 guys that were reporting to the campus pastor, they were all friends. So the campus pastor is like, hey, here's your direct report. So I went in not with like open arms.
Okay.
I mean, they accepted me. I mean, it wasn't like resistance, but I had to gain a lot of equity with them.
Yeah.
Let them know that, hey, I'm for you. Like, I'm not going to tell you how to do your job.
Right.
You guys are freaking experts. And it's like, I'm just here to support you in whatever you need. And, you know, I didn't know this then, but knowing it now, my job as a leader is to make the people that I lead successful.
You know, I love that you just said that, because if I want to share just a couple of things as you went through that journey. The first thing I think is an incredible way to look at, because likely if you're listening to this, I would assume that either you're within a for-profit company or you might own one, you're a leader within one of them. But I think it's a really interesting perspective to think about, what if we thought about everyone that's showing up within our organization as volunteers? What might we do as leaders differently? Because here's the thing. If you didn't create what you did with that team, you would have had inconsistency. And when you would have had inconsistency, now, like, I mean, how many people are showing up to those services? Hundreds, thousands? I'm not sure.
Thousands.
Right? So like that small team of people, and being able to nurture that small team of people would have had a direct impact on thousands of people. So I think it's just kind of an interesting way to like, just take a quick second to think about where you're at, where your feet are. And what if you thought about the people around you as volunteers just for a moment, just to see if that might, you know, make something come forward in the soul.
My first thing I think of is how I communicate to my team would be different.
It's interesting, right?
Right? Like, I'm sitting here thinking, you saw me pause. I have to, you're a lot more thoughtful in what you say when people are showing up, giving up their time. And before we started the services, like, we all connected, and you know what we said every Sunday? Is it somebody's first Sunday today? We do this, and I say this to our team. We do this every Sunday, 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a Sunday. And we do this. It's just, this is just what we do.
Yeah.
And take it to the salon world. Yeah. You've done 100,000s of balayages.
Yep.
But this is somebody's first balayage today.
Right. First time with you. First time experiencing the company.
We have all these people coming in today, but one of them just found out that they have cancer this past week.
Right.
You know, like, now it shifts to, wow, I'm working with individuals
Yep.
now, not just, oh, I got 6 people today or 7 people. It's like, no, I've got 6 individual people that I could have a small impact on their life.
Another thing I want to share real quick is when you talked about it, you said the word, well, what I heard was you were building equity. And I was really thankful for the way you talked about that. And I think, again, like this, like, you know, your leadership journey began in a not-for-profit type of situation. And when you said that, I was like, wait a minute. What if we thought about the way that we build equity with people? Because like when I think of it right away, it's equity in a home. Most people, that's going to be one of the most common things. Maybe an auto loan, but that might get into a different type of situation. But if you think about the way that equity is structured, when it's a loan, there's a portion of it, the interest, that's not your equity. You're paying back, right? So that's not something that you get. And in the beginning of a loan, right, in the beginning of a relationship, the amount of interest that you're paying is actually the highest. The amount of equity that you get in the beginning is actually the smallest, right? It's interesting, right? So if we think about the relationships that we're building, and as we're transcending up through the 5 levels of leadership, that equity in the beginning, it would make more sense that you might not be able to move the needle as far and fast as what you want to. Now, especially if I go back into like young versions of myself as a leader, I could write a book about what you should not do, right? When I go back, especially, you know, before getting self-employed, when I got self-employed, the mistakes I made actually fell back on me. When I worked for other people's companies, oh yeah, you know what? I wasn't maybe the best team player in one of these situations, but a couple of people left, that no skin off my back. A lot of the situations I was in, I was doing direct sales. So what that meant was I get to sell more. Interesting situation. But as you talked about equity, the way that I heard it was maybe think of it from the principal equity portion of it so that we can think about how much work we actually need to do to be able to build equity with people. Keep going with that though.
Yeah. So the whole equity piece, I mean, I do that now. And I was talking to, I had this thought, and I had lunch with a mentor of mine. I thought getting equity with people, you can do simple things. It could be as easy as showing up to someone's baby shower, or getting them. I tell you what, like if you're a leader and you're listening to this, you love on other people's kids, especially for a woman, you love on their kids, tons of equity. And I had this thought. I was like, wait, is this manipulation? And so it was heavy on me. And so I called my mentor. I was like, hey, can we get breakfast? He's like, yeah. So we sat down. I was like, okay, I'm there to, like, if I sweep hair and like I'm doing all these things to build equity with our team. Yep. I definitely want to serve them and whatnot. And I was like, is this manipulation? And it was like so quick. He said, if you're doing it for your gain, it's manipulation. If you're doing it for their gain, it's leadership. For their gain, it's leadership. I was like, okay, well, my heart's in the right place. I'm doing it to support them. I'm not doing it to build me up.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, if I was trying to build me up, I wouldn't be sweeping hair, right?
Right.
That would be beneath me. So
you have more quote unquote important things to do, right? And I love that example because it's something, honestly, I mean, we have it go on so often in our salon company. One of the things, and it's funny because I'm going to tell you, there's a portion of the salon, and I love, like, if I have a free moment, I'm down to fold towels. I'm down to do capes, like that. It's a part of the operation. But one of the things I get to do from the vantage point that I stand is I have complete visibility of our front desk, all of our salon coordinators, and I have complete visibility of all of our stations. And what I think is so interesting is when there's an understanding between the artist and the coordinator, as people are coming into our building and as people are checking out and leaving our building, when I watch them sometimes just move in unison, sometimes the coordinator takes over, finishes out the appointment, gets everything pre-booked, is there to bag retail, make sure that we have all those pieces taken care of for them. And then sometimes the artist will actually want to do that, right? It might be that, it's a complicated next service to book, or maybe, we're switching them up to something different on retail. And we want to make sure they have an understanding of how to use it. Whatever the situation is, the coordinator they might check in, but sometimes they'll just sense, they're like, okay, they're doing my job. I'm going to go reset their station and do quote unquote their job, right? And I watched this just happen, Evan. And again, like this is where the person, if you were to go and do that move, they're like, well, it's not in my job description. You know what? I'm going to take a drink of water. I'm going to open up the small screen, do a little bit of scrolling, whatever that would be. But they're consciously choosing in the moment, like, okay, I see that they're doing my role. How can I show up for them right now?
There's a difference between a group of people and a team.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of people that think they have a team, but you just have a group of people. Like that's a team atmosphere. And the key, as you were saying all that, I was like, that's awareness.
Yeah.
Like
high level.
Like you have to have awareness of what is going on. We have in our break room, we have a TV with not all of our security cameras, but the ones like up front in the color bar area and the cutting area, the shampoo room, because I want our team to know, like, where does people need help at?
Wow.
And it's great because they'll come back and they're like, hey, I need to finish cutting. Can you shampoo such and such? And they're like, well, who are they? And they're like, oh, they're sitting right here in this chair.
Beautiful.
So now they don't have to go up and be like, hey, who's Janet?
You know, man, I want to take a quick moment. I'm going to shout out a couple of people on our team real quick, because as you were giving that example, first out, her name is Emily, and we had just brought her into our team. She was a client of the salon. In my mind, I think it's been somewhere around like 3 or 4 years, but she came out of a not-for-profit, interestingly enough, and came into our company. She's like, I'd love to do an apprenticeship with you guys. We're like, hey, we need to work together for 6 months before we go into that. The point that I want to share though is Roxy, who is our lead salon coordinator and has a salon servant leader's heart, and is literally the sun shining in the morning of the day. We've been optimizing our training systems for those coordinators, and this is the fastest and most proficient that we have ever had someone move through that training program. And the thing I will tell you about Emily, that I was watching this on, like, I think she was already doing this when she was shadowing. So in the shadow, you're not even compensated at that point. You're not even hired yet. She already was moving to help anywhere that she could in the company. And now that she actually understands it at a high level, good Lord, you can watch this human. I mean, I think I'm fast in the sense of awareness. By the time I'm thinking it, she's already there. And I'm a competitive person, so it kind of gets me.
That's the people we want to hire.
Yeah.
We want to hire people that have awareness.
That's what you want to build around in your team, right?
And one of the things, I mean, this isn't like a hiring episode, but I mean, how they dress, that's awareness. Like you're coming to an interview.
Yep.
If they're dressed like sloppy, I'm like, they have a low sense of awareness.
Yeah.
It's how they present themselves.
Self-esteem, all those self-worth.
Their posture.
Yep.
I asked if you have any questions. If they're like, no, I'm like, come on, this is awareness. Like, this is where hopefully you're going to choose to build your career.
Yep. Which I think it's also like in those moments of it, like I look at awareness and then there's the choice to engage. Because it man, that was one thing. We've been saying the word execute a lot within like completing tasks. And like, it's actually like the first step is you have to engage, right? But as I look through that is that piece that when you look and you want to build team, do you need people that are going to have low awareness or high awareness? High awareness. Do you need people that are low engagement centered or high engagement centered, right? We're getting a little bit off topic to it, but this is we're going to have to come back to
I'm
this
about
one.
to get real off topic. There's a you said execute. I always remember. There's a football coach from the 70s or 80s. It was Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Have you heard this?
Nope.
And they were playing terribly. They were losing. I think they haven't won a game all year. And it was halftime. And he's walking off the field, and the reporter sticks a microphone in his face, says, hey, what do you think about the execution of your team? He says, I'm all for it.
I'm sorry for any of you if I just blew your eardrums out. That was...
So when someone says execute, I kind of smile because I think about that. What a great statement.
I'm just thinking of, as the world famous Green Bay Packers, if they would ever lose a game and one of our head coaches would say something like that, how funny it'd be. Anyway, I'm off football now.
Epic.
Okay. So you go through the beginning of your leadership. Let's now jump into when you got into, because again, I think there's a different thing, because you move into your role within your salon company. You and Aaron are leading this ship, right? So when you think about your leadership style transcending as you came into there, what were you seeing in yourself, and what were you kind of aware of, and what were the things you were like, oh, this is different?
Yeah, well, I'm working with all females, so that's a definitely different atmosphere, and which is great
by choice. Also, and I want to say that because I if I had a lower inflection in my voice when I said same, I do this by choice. To be very clear, right? This is by choice, and also the dynamic group of people. Because I will tell you, every other industry, they're like, "Oh, you poor thing," and I'm like, not at all, not at all.
No.
The amount of things that I have awareness to, and the amount of things that I can learn by an open mind as a male.
How many details?
Good Lord.
That there's nothing that goes unnoticed.
100%. 100%.
And so when I came on, I didn't know anything. So I had to lean on them a lot, which I think was I thought I was going to be in the office pitching vision, but I was working front desk. And when working front desk, I had to lean on them a lot, which I gained a lot of equity from them. And throughout the years, especially after COVID, we went through this season of, hey, just like we wanted our team to be healthy.
Yeah.
And at the time, we had people that didn't want to work Saturdays and and we were just like, hey, like life is short. If you don't want to work Saturdays, don't work Saturdays. You don't want to work this, don't work. You don't take these days off, take it off. And then we realized financially, our company's taking a hit. And then people, there was some that I feel like we're doing a lot of hiring right now. I think at the time it was like average hours that people were working were like 24. I'm like, well, yeah, we gotta get more people in here, because if you have someone working, say full time is 30 hours and they're working 15,
right?
Well, you got to find another person to pick up those hours.
100%.
To find. So now we've kind of steered our leadership with, hey, we want you to be healthy, but we have to run a business as well,
right?
And our team right now is behind that. I think I can interview every one of our team about, hey, have you missed a wedding? Have you missed a baby shower? Have you missed a vacation? Like everybody, you can have off whenever.
Literally.
But
when was the last time you said no?
I don't know.
Same.
Yeah.
I literally, as you said that, I was like, I don't remember the last time that there was a request off that came through our organization that was like, I'm so sorry.
But we had to do some restructuring on Saturdays and things like that. And we just started hiring different too. We hired people now that say, hey, if that's going to help me grow, I'll do Saturdays for a season.
Right.
Instead of in the interview process, do I have to work Saturdays? It's like, okay, you don't want it.
Yeah.
They're like, I mean, we're looking for hungry, humble, hardworking, nice, coachable people.
You don't have to out in the outside world, but you would here.
Well, yeah. I'm like, look, this is the path to be successful. Can you go work somewhere else and not have to work Saturdays? Yeah.
Possibly.
Or if you've got something, like we're going to take every person differently.
Right. Because you have to.
Yeah. Successful people do things that normal people don't want to do.
People like us do things like this.
Yeah.
Simon Sinek.
Yeah.
Shout out to you.
I mean, it's funny because when you were coming into town, I thought we'd go play golf last night, and we haven't had a spare minute.
Literally.
And this is what separates us from people that do business and close it after a year, because they're like, this is tough.
Yep.
Well, we kind of knew this was going to be tough going in anyway.
I mean, you got to multitask, right? And I mean, yesterday I was filming, I was running cameras for what we were filming for the Artist Academy. I was responding to, we have a really beautiful event coming up in our salon. And then I also did all of our back end payroll taxes, and I was doing all those at the same point, right? And it isn't a flex on multitasking. It's more of the focus of like, sometimes as a leader, people like us do things like this. I have responsibilities. I am going to be where my feet are. I also have chosen a responsibility that sometimes I got to firefight. Sometimes I get to be there. Sometimes it can't be. So when you went into front desk, and I love it again, Evan, the amount of consistencies here. When I was going to school, working for my business partner in the distribution company, my first job in the salon was in the front desk, right? And the amount of awareness, and again, I'm Roxy, this is the second time, please know, the amount of awareness when you have someone that is in that lead position in those roles, when they have amazing awareness and when they develop and when they equip themselves in that way, it's so beautiful. So you get into that role, you realize in the beginning, you're like, I have a lot to learn. And then I also have this positional title. That's challenging, right? Because as we've gone through, and this equity piece has really, really been a lot of our conversation. But how did you do this?
It's really hard to have the title. Like you are, is my wife and I, but what I said went, as the owner of the company, but I didn't know jack.
Yeah.
So I put down the title.
Humble.
I put down the title and I was like, look, I'm leaning on you.
Yeah.
And I flipped you look at a totem pole where, the owner sits at the top. I flipped that upside down.
Servant leader.
And I was like, hey, I need you guys to help me.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was times where I would pick up 3 products and go in the back and be like, hey, what is this? Why would anybody need this? I said, what's the difference between this and this?
Yep.
Because these seem like the same to me. And again, I gained a ton of equity with our team. And I didn't come in like trying to be a know-it-all.
Yeah,
I still don't come in being a know-it-all.
You have not a sense of unhealthy ego that comes from you at all.
Well, thank you.
You are a resourceful and confident human, but in your deployment of that, you have a humbleness to it, and it's just such a natural thing. And I think that's a part as leaders today. Like, forget about the title, forget about all the things that come with it. At the end of the day, we're in the people business, right? You execute that really trying to get away from this word. You have an awareness of how to show up and meet someone where they're at, and then also understand immediately, is it my job to be the smartest person in the room, or is this a learning opportunity?
Well, yes, I am working on that. I haven't always showed up that way, but the key thing is awareness. And when you mess up, you apologize. My job is and your job, you're the same mindset.
Literally the same job.
And it's to make our team successful.
Yep.
And if they're not winning, then I'm not winning.
Correct.
I want them to win.
Yep.
Whatever that is. In our one-on-ones, I know we got to wrap this up, but in our one-on-ones, what are your personal, financial, and professional goals? And I want to help you win those.
Yep. Let me help you move the needle. So the thing I think I want to distill from it is we talked about a bunch of different pieces there. I think first out, think about your team as volunteers. That just even if you spent 5 minutes on it, journal a little bit, I think that could really change some things within your organization. Next one is this idea of think of the mortgage and how you build equity with people. Just because I give you, if your house payment is $4,000, right? Just because you gave the bank $4,000 this month doesn't mean that your equity went up by $4,000. Right? It's what the bank is choosing to make that value, right? So that's another interesting thing that I want to put there. This last one, I think that we've both discovered is also to understand that when in the way that we lead in our organizations, if we remember to take that and go from owner at the top, team at the bottom, to flip that thing upside down, be a salon servant leader, be an owner that supports your entire team, we've served. Those are 3 points. Hey, anything else you want to add?
No, we're at 30 minutes here. Thanks for tuning in.
We'll see you guys soon. Hope you enjoyed.